Hey everybody, Ms. Smith here. Today we're going to be solving some equations. So first I'm going to start off with a few note pages in my book. And now if you don't have a book, you might want to pause the video and grab a blank piece of paper so that you can write down these equations and solve them along with me. Once we're done solving these sample equations, we're going to turn to today's assignment and do a couple of problems from it as well. So let's get started. So our first equation, it says draw a picture for each equation and solve. And we have number 1, -5 equals -v minus 4v. So how do we draw a picture of that? Well, we have this nice little scale built for us. And as we remember, this whole concept of equality, what does the equal sign mean? It really means that both sides have the same value. So if this side is equal to -5, this side is equal to -5 also. It just looks different. So if we were to put each side on a scale like this, and put -v minus 4v over here, if we put those two things on a scale, because they have the same value, they would balance. They wouldn't tip this way and they wouldn't tip this way. They would just balance because they are equal to each other. So when we're solving, as long as we do the same things to both sides, we keep that equality intact. So like, for example, if we were to add 3 to this side, well, that's going to make it heavier, so we have to add it to this side also, and that balances it out. Let's go ahead and solve this one. Before we solve, I have a wonderful step-by-step instruction sheet that I'm going to put on here. Let's see. Maybe if I put it right about there. Okay, so let's just go through our steps and see what applies here. So step 1, distribute. Okay, nothing to distribute. Step 2, collect like terms. Okay, is anything needing to be simplified in terms of like terms? I see we have a term with v here and another term with v here, so let's collect those together. So I'm going to copy down -5 over here, and here we're going to combine these. So -v, that's the same thing as -1v minus 4v. That's going to give us -5v. And we still have our cute little scale here, and it's still balancing because we haven't really changed anything. We just simplified this side. Okay, what can we do now? Let's check our to-do list. Variables on one side. No variables here, variable there. Okay, good. Constants on the other side. Constant is just a number, so it's on the other side. Great. This is awesome. We have constants over here, variables over here. We're doing good. Let's go to the next step. Coefficient of 1. Do you remember what a coefficient is? It's that number in front of the variable, and it is definitely not 1. And if you can see what I wrote under that, basically you need the variable all by itself, or coefficient of 1. It's kind of two different ways to say the same thing. So we're going to make this into a 1, or get the v by itself, by doing an inverse operation. Right now we have -5 times v, so we're going to do the inverse, which is divide by -5. So let's divide by -5, and we got to keep our scale balanced, so what we do to one side, we better do to the other. Divide by -5 over here. Okay, what does this equal? -5 divided by -5, that gives us 1. I'll draw my little scale here, doop. And then these 5's cancel out, or you could say -5 divided by -5 equals 1 there also. So you get 1v. So now do we have that coefficient of 1? Yes, we do. And a coefficient of 1, like 1v, that doesn't change anything. That's just the same thing as saying v. So from here, you can say 1 equals v. And you are done. Let's do our next problem. All right, it looks like we have 3r plus 6 equals 4r plus 3. Let's get our little list of steps. So step 1, distribute. Okay, nothing to distribute. Step 2, collect like terms. Okay, so there are some like terms here. They're just on different sides of the equation. So you kind of want to jump to step 3, variables on one side. So let's bring those all to the same side. You could subtract the 4r here, or you could subtract the 3r here. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to just subtract the 3r here because that's handy. Now I forgot to draw it on my handy dandy scale. Let me try that again. 3r plus 6 equals 4r plus 3. Okay, so now we're going to subtract our 3r here. And whatever we do to that side, we don't want that scale to tip, so we better do it over here too. Minus 3r. So these are going to become 0, so I'm just going to bring down the 6. 4r minus 3r, though, is going to be 1r. Or you could just write r if you want to. Still plus 3. Okay, and we still have our fun little scale. So now basically we have 6 equals 1r plus 3. So let's look at our to-do list again. Collect like terms. Variables on one side. Okay, all the variables are on that side. Step 4, constants on the other side. Okay, remember constants are just regular numbers. And it looks like we have a constant here and a constant here. So we have constants on two different sides. Now, we want the constants to be on the side away from the variables. So I'm not going to subtract 6. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the 3. And that way, we bring all the constants over here. So 6 minus 3 equals 3. And here's my little scale. And 1r. And then these just equal 0. So I'm going to leave it at 1r. And so now we just check to make sure we have a coefficient of 1. And we do have a coefficient of 1. Hey, that worked out. And that's the same thing as having the variable by itself, because 1r is the same thing as r. So we can just rewrite this as 3 equals r. And you are done with that one. Let's do another example. Okie dokie. We need to do x minus 1 over here. And then on the other side, we'll put negative 4x plus 2x minus 7. Okay, let's get our steps out again. Step 1, distribute. Well, we still don't have to do that. Step 2, collect like terms. Okay, let's look at this. No like terms on this side. What about over on this side? That's right, those two terms with an x in there, they can be combined. So let me just start by copying this down. And then over here, what is negative 4x plus 2x? Gives us negative 2x. Good. And then we still have minus 7. And our little scale. There we go. All right. Now we need to make sure we have variables on one side. Okay. So do we want to add the 2x here so that we have the variables on that side? Or do we want to subtract the x here and bring the variables over there? It doesn't really matter. I'm going to go with adding 2x. Okay, plus 2x here. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side to keep our scale balanced. So let's do that. Now these are going to total up to become 0, so I'm just going to cancel them out. Over here, x plus 2x. Remember that x is the same thing as 1x. So x plus 2x is going to equal 3x. And it's still minus 1. And then over here, we're just going to have the negative 7. And we still have our scale. So if there was an equal sign here, it would just be right here where the scale is, right? Okay. So now we have variables on one side, and we need to check to make sure we have constants on the other side. So our constants are the negative 7 and the negative 1. We need to get that negative 1 away from our variable because we need our constants all on the other side. So get rid of that negative 1 by adding 1, and that's going to cancel to 0. You're going to be left with 3x equals negative 7 plus 1 is negative 6. And there's our scale. And now we need a coefficient of 1. That's our last step. Right now our coefficient is 3. Let's get rid of that by dividing by 3. Divide by 3, divide by 3, so we're dividing on both sides. The 3's cancel out to be a 1 because 3 divided by 3 is a 1, right? So 1x equals negative 6 divided by 3, negative 2. So you know your x is going to equal negative 2, and then you're done. Okay, one more example on the notes page, and then we're going to go to the homework assignment. Okie dokie. Number 4. Let's copy it down. So we have 2 times 4 plus b on this side of the scale. And over on this side of the scale, we have 9 plus b. Step 1, I'm excited. We finally get to use step 1, and that is to distribute. So we're going to go 2 times 4 plus 2 times b. So 2 times 4, let's see, that's 8. plus 2 times b is 2b. Here's my scale. And then over here we have 9 plus b. Okay, we are done distributing. Let's see what's next. Collect like terms. Nothing alike over here, nothing alike over here. Okay, next. Variables on one side. Okay, we've got 2b here and b here. You can do it whichever way you want, but I'm going to start by subtracting this 2b. And minus 2b there. That just goes to 0. So we have 8, and then we have our little scale, and then 9. Okay, what is 1b minus 2b? That's going to be negative 1b, so I'm just going to write minus b. There we go. And now constants on the other side. That's our step 4. So here's our variable. We need all of the constants over here on the other side, so that 9 has got to go. Right now it's a positive 9, so let's subtract it away. 9 minus 9 is 0, so we'll just cancel it and we'll write negative b. Don't forget there's that minus sign in front of the b. That's super important. Here's your scale. And over on this side, 8 minus 9 gives us negative 1. Okay, we're almost done. Coefficient of 1. That's our last step. What's the coefficient of b right now? It's a negative 1. Okay, we got to change that. So how are we going to change it? We are going to divide by a negative 1. Okay, 1 second. Hey, sorry about that. Okay, so we divide by 1 on both sides, and, divide by negative 1 on both sides. And so that's going to give us a positive b over here and a positive 1 over here. So we know that b equals 1. Okay, and here we are on the assignment part of the video. We're going to be doing numbers 1 and 6. Alright, so first of all, let's get ready for number 1, and we'll put our little sheet right there. So step 1, distribute. Looks like we've got some parentheses there, and we need to distribute the 5 into that. So let's just copy down our 260 here. And now we have 5 times 6m. That's going to give us 30m. And then we have 5 times 5. That's positive 25. So let's put plus 25. And that is all still over 3. Okay, so now we can look at it and kind of think almost like a two-step equation, even though it's not. But we can think of our party members here. So who would go home first? The best friend, the acquaintance, or the creeper? Let's send that creeper home. Definitely. Send him home first. And we're going to do that by, well, right now it's dividing by 3. So we're going to multiply by 3 on both sides. Okay. Those 3's are going to cancel out, and you're going to be left with 3 times 260. That's 780. And then you still have the 30m plus 25 over here. 30m plus 25. Okay, now let's get rid of who first? The BFF or the acquaintance? Let's get rid of that acquaintance, the one that's not attached to the variable. We're going to get rid of 25 by subtracting 25 from both sides. So 780 minus 25, that's going to give us 755. And then we still have 30m. And then that just became 0. And now it's time for BFF to go home, so let's divide both sides by 30. And let's see, 755 divided by 30, what is that? 755 divided by 30 gives us, 25.16. So 25.16, I'll just write 167, equals m. Now that sounds really goofy. And you're thinking, is that the right number? Well, I'm going to show you how to double check and make sure it's the right number. You're just going to plug it back in where m is. So first, let's work inside these parentheses. You have m times 6. So I'm just going to leave that in my calculator, and I'm going to go do times 6. So it says answer times 6. And I get 151. Let's add 5 to that. And then we have what's done in the parentheses. Now let's multiply that by 5. And then we have the top done, and we're going to divide by 3. And if it gives us 260, we'll know we're correct. And look at that, 260. So it's a goofy answer, but we plugged it back in and now we're sure we're right. So done with that one. Let's go on to number 6. Okay, step 1, distribute. Looks like this is our spot for distributing. We'll distribute the 5 to the 4 and to the negative r. So let's just go ahead and copy down -1. And then it looks like it's going to give us a positive 20, so plus 20. And then 5 times negative r, or minus r, is going to be negative 5r. So let's do minus 5r. Equals, and then I'm just going to copy that down. Okie dokie. Step 2, collect like terms. Okay, what do we got? Looks like we have 2 constants on this side. Can we combine -1 and 20? Yeah, those are definitely like terms. Let's do that. So we have 19 minus 5r, nothing to combine with that yet. And now on this side we have something with an r, and then we have a constant. Can't combine those, so let's just write them down. Now we want all the variables on one side. So you know what, I'm going to get rid of this -7r. I'm going to add it to both sides. So what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. That's just going to become 0. And now I have 19, well, let's see, negative 5r plus 7r is going to be positive 2r. That became 0, and I have 13. Step 4, constants on the other side. All right, 19, you got to get out of there. Let's go to the other side, over to the 13 side with you. We get rid of him by subtracting 19. So that becomes 0. Now we have 2r equals, see, 13 minus 19 gives us -6. And now we have 2 numbers being multiplied together, so let's just divide to get the coefficient of 1. So divide by 2, and r is going to equal -3. So I hope that gets you started in the right direction on your homework. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.